I don't want to hear your shit. I got it working. I got it working.
You did. You got it working. You got it working quick.
I don't know what happened, but all the settings that we had in there, again, I had to just like delete them and put them back in there. But it seems like Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope are all working now. So welcome to the DP Show.
Welcome to the DP Show. You know what happens? Like when you leave for more than a week, somebody goes down in your basement and just messes with knobs and dials. That's
probably
what I
the
think's
cat.
going on.
Probably the cat. Probably the cat. Probably the cat. How you doing, buddy?
I'm terrific. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever now.
Did you miss me? Honestly, tell me. Did you miss me?
Honestly?
Yes.
Truthfully?
Truthfully.
At times, yeah.
Yes. I missed you too. I kept thinking about you in Greece. Like everything I did in Greece, I was thinking to myself, well, if Phil was here, he would enjoy this. If Phil was here, he wouldn't enjoy this. If Phil was here, he would enjoy this.
I can't imagine many things that you did in Greece that I would not enjoy.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But
especially the food.
But on the bright side, I did notice a lot more people in Greece using IQOS. I saw more people vaping. It seems like COVID gave the opportunity for some people to discover harm reduction as well too. And it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Anything that we see people moving away from cigarettes is a good thing. What I have noticed is huge competition from big tobacco. Huge competition. I mean, they're coming aggressively catering to the smokers with these harm reduced products. Again, that's a good thing, if you look at it from a harm reduction standpoint, but it's a bad thing for business,
Yeah, well, it's a good look. We always said that whether it's a Juul or whether it's an IQOS or any of that product, right? A Vape, it's good. I mean, it's harm reduction, so you can't get mad at that. What I can get mad at is that they're playing in the sandbox that we created, that we built the sandbox. Yeah. We put the sand in there. Right? We put the toys in there, and now they want to come in and take over the sandbox. That's what makes me mad.
Yeah, and in the new store that I opened in 𝗏 Square, I was working the weekend that we had working. I was just there, and these 3 UK guys, probably about 23, 24 years old, came in, British guys, and they're like, "Hey, you got any Juuls?" And I'm like, "This is the way that I played it, and it worked brilliantly." I was like, "Juuls is like." So 2018, bro. I said, here we have EQ and 𝗀𝗀, which is my mint and my tobacco line that I have there. And I said, it works great. It's cheap. You can refill it. And guess what? You hit this button 3 times and you also get a boost. I was just playing it up. And these guys are like, what? It has a boost. For 25-year-old guys, it's like, wow, right?
Oh, my God.
So I got them all set up because I have this special now in the stores. 20 euros, you get set up to vape in Greece. You get liquid, you get a device. You get a choice between the Endura, the Inikin EQ, or the Inikin DV. Any of those devices with 2 10ml bottles of liquid, $20, 20 euros. You have to. This is what we have to do to draw people inside, right? So I got all 3 of them set up with an EQ and mint tobacco 𝗀𝗀, and they were so happy when they left. But it's just like all they know is Logic or Juul, or there's this whole vapor world out there that they're not aware of. So,
what was interesting that you said a little while ago, what you said about Juul, and you said it's like, oh, it's so 80s or whatever, however you put it. I was talking to a teen who should not be vaping, right? But we know what's going on. And I was talking to them about is the Juul, and they said, Juul, no Juul anymore. They're like, I said, what do you mean no Juul anymore? They said, oh no, we're on puff bars now.
Yes.
Juul
and puff bars. Yes.
Juul is old now.
Yep.
You believe that? Even there, shit trends.
Yep.
Right. It's
absolutely.
crazy.
Absolutely. It's all about the blow and the puff bars now. In a little bit, we're going to be joined by our guest, Amanda Wheeler. She's waiting patiently. I do have just a little, I just want to know, how did your vacuuming go today?
That's not funny. What?
I thought
it's not funny because I told you the story and because now you got to bring it up.
Well, I just want, because I know your house is automated, and you have automatic vacuum cleaners, you have automatic lights, you have automatic massages, whatever you have over there, and I just wanted to know how your vacuuming went today. I was concerned.
I'm really into home automation, okay, and I have a robot vacuum in my garage.
Uh-huh.
I have
you have a robot vacuum in your garage. That's why everybody understands.
There's a lot of barefooting going on in Florida, right?
Yeah,
and if you vacuum your garage, you don't get like dust and sand in the house. I'm very metrosexual that way. Okay. I keep a good house. I keep a very clean house. Okay. So anyway, I even have a robot vacuum cleaner on the lanai. Now, so when I set that one up, I had to make sure that it didn't go near the pool. And there's something called no-go lines and no-go areas, right? That you can set and you can create. So I've been using this vacuum out there for, I don't know, half a year. No issues at all. Today, it decides to completely lose its mind and vacuumed itself right into the pool.
Wow.
Right into the pool.
Did it get all the water?
Even the cliff sensors didn't work. I'm like even that should have kicked in, and it should have seen a drop, and it should have backed off. Nope. That's right into the pool.
That's the beauty of automation. Anyway, listen, I've had a bad week myself, and but I went and got a haircut yesterday. I feel better. I went on a bike ride. I'm starting to distress a little bit, but I'm really concerned.
Bike ride, my kind of bike ride, or
no, not your kind of bike ride.
Oh, okay.
But I will tell you that in America, customer service is dead. There's absolutely no such thing as customer service from anything, any sector that involves a customer and a representative is dead. I don't care what it is. Like, nobody gives a shit anymore, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a service, whether it's a plumber, whether it's nobody cares. And they seem like completely nonchalant if they completely ignore you or give you shitty service. And I will tell you, Phil, I got highly motivated. When I was in Greece, I went and played some volleyball with the guys, from the team from 30 years ago, and they're building a team now to come down this year in Athens. And so I went and sat in a couple practices with them, and I can still hang. I mean, I can still play, but I felt myself I needed to get a little bit more physical activity going, because all I've been doing is just treadmill. I haven't been doing any like toning and stuff like that.
Right.
And since I lost weight, I feel kind of insecure about my body, because I have, I'm not like you. Like, you are like strong like bull,
I mean, really.
So I get motivated, and I said, when I was in Greece, I said, when I get back, I'm going to get a personal trainer. And I'm going to go specific and tell them that this is what I want to do. I need somebody to hold me accountable. I need somebody to check, to keep me in check. You can't do that with a friend, because a friend's a friend. You tell the friend to go fuck themselves, right? But a trainer that you're paying, they'll keep you in check. Okay. So I do all my research. I find one-on-one personal training in Chattanooga, just down the street, like 5 minutes from my house. I sent him an email, and I said, look, I've lost almost 100 pounds. I'm really motivated right now, and I want to do this, and I want one-on-one training. I don't want to go in a gym. There's like 100 people in there. I want one-on-one training. This is what I want. And he comes back and he sends me an email. He's like, congratulations. It's so good for you. And it's to be healthy for you. Well, I have an appointment. I have an opening tomorrow, 10:15 in the morning. Can you come by here and we sit down, we talk? And I was like, great. I will be there in the morning. I get up in the morning, drink my coffee, get on my motorcycle, drive down. I'm there at 10:12, Phil. At 10:12. I wait until 10:35. The motherfucker doesn't show up.
Unbelievable.
He doesn't call, doesn't email. I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, think about this as a motivational thing. Forget about the money that he's losing. It's like $400 a month, right? Forget about the money. Like, I'm telling you that I'm almost 50. I got another year. And I'm motivated, and I'm like, help me. And he's like, yeah, go. And then he doesn't show up in the meeting.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, fuck my life. What are we supposed to do?
First of all, let me just say that I love you just the way you are. You don't need to tone up for me.
That's so
right?
sweet.
I will accept you the way you are.
Oh.
Okay. That's number one. Number two, I understand that. Here's why I understand that, because I have been going through something kind of like that, a little bit similar with the insurance stuff, right? So the colonoscopy insurance that is still going on. The insurance for the hospital visit in France, that is still going on.
Yep.
Issues with the boat warranty, that is still going on.
Yep.
Nothing happens by itself easily.
Yes.
You have to handhold, you have to follow, you have to push, you have to call, you have to follow up, you got to check up. I almost feel like they make it as difficult as possible because most people will fucking give up.
Yes.
They will just give up.
Yes.
And they won't have to pay.
Yes.
They won't have to cover.
Yes.
They won't have to do anything.
They're hoping that you give up.
Yes. Yes.
They're hoping that you give up. That is customer service in America in 2020, ladies and gentlemen. That you should be concerned about, and not how you're going to vote. By the way, let me just put this out there. I've seen so many people on Facebook get mad at other people because of what they're voting, or they're not voting their way. I mean, seriously. Come on. What does it matter with you? Stop ruining your friendships. They're all charlatans. They're all. Can any of these guys that are running make sure that my guy shows up at an appointment for my personal training? That's what I'm concerned about in my life. Not the fucking fracking or whatever that's called. Anyway, we've been waiting very, very patiently. Our guest has been waiting very, very patiently.
Oh my, opinions from both ends. You are listening to The DP Show with Dimmy and Phil.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by Amanda Wheeler. Our telephone lines are open, 215-383-5752. If you have any questions or comments for our lovely guest tonight, or for us, you can please call in. You're going to hear a British lady speaking. When you do, press 1 so I can see you on my switchboard, and then I can just whoop, enter you into our conversation. Hey, Amanda, how you doing?
Should we make the comment that Amanda is the first female ever on the DP show? Should we say that?
Amanda, you are the first DP guest of the female gender.
Oh, I'm honored.
Yes, you should be.
Yes, I'm honored.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. So before we get started with the AVM, and a lot to talk about there for those that might not know, I mean, everybody should know you by now, Amanda, and everything that you've done. But just briefly, give us a little bit of history. We know that you own j-Vapes, been around for a very, very long time, and you manufacture your liquid, and you have vape shops as well, too. But let's get a little bit more specific into, let me rephrase that. I think a lot of people become advocates in this industry because they're trying to save their business. And I think that this is what kind of motivated you, right? I mean, your livelihood was on the line.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got involved really heavily in advocacy personally when things started to go bad in Colorado. That's because we have, half of our retail is in Colorado. And so, when state legislation started coming down the pipe there, that's when I really got heavily involved in things directly. Our company was one of the founding members of Arizona Smoke Free way back in 2013 or 2014, but I had never been super directly involved in that until I got involved in Rocky Mountain Smoke Free back in 2018.
The state legislation that in a lot of these states started, very, with good heart. A lot of people got involved at the beginning, but as you know, and I think people that have been involved deeply, like I have in state, it starts with very good intention, but usually people just disappear after a while, and then you're kind of left there, and there's a bill coming, or there's all of a sudden here comes, oh my God, we're going to be out of business. And then everybody's stomping their feet and like, whoa, what are we going to do about it? But is that how you kind of fell into these state groups?
I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, it was interesting when our fights started to get more complicated. My husband actually said, we need somebody who looks like a soccer mom to kind of go and represent this in a way, because we need to put a different face on what we're doing. And he wasn't wrong, and I was at the time very much enjoying being a stay-at-home mom and a housewife and all of that sort of stuff. And I got kind of recruited into the cause because of, my sort of ability to bring that kind of suburban mother sort of face to the situation. And, I think Jordan was right. It's worked pretty well in my favor. I think, fighting these battles on our behalf,
Do you think that perception, and maybe not, our perception now is more of the kid thing, but I think if you look back at 2016, 2017, when a lot of this started, do you think that our perception at the time was that of, the cloud chucking and all this, and it's just the cult image of what vaping was?
Yeah, exactly. I think at the time that was very much sort of the image that there's nothing wrong with that part of the industry at all. But on the political side of it, when we're fighting these battles, I think definitely that was kind of the image that we were presenting at that time.
Phil, that's something that you bring up all the time, right?
Yeah,
how important
absolutely.
Perception is.
We've talked about public perception. We've talked about image. We've talked about how vaping looks. And like Amanda said, there's nothing wrong with that side, right? And how many years have Dimitri and I been talking about balance, right? We need balance in the industry. Every time you see a young guy with tattoos and ear gauges, we need to see an elderly woman buying her coils and her e-liquid. We need to see both of those sides, and it can't be just one-sided, or it just looks bad. It just looks bad. And we lost that balance for a long time in the industry.
Do you feel, Amanda, that a lot of the bills that may have passed, were they because we were not represented or because we were not represented well?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, Colorado is a very blue state, right? We've got a blue governor, a blue Senate, a blue House. And so it's a hard state to fight battles in. But Colorado is a newly blue state. And so we might have a little easier of a time. It's a little hard to say in, places like California and Massachusetts, whether or not we were represented well. I don't know. Those battles were pretty heavily stacked against us, but I do think there have been holes in our representation, and things where we definitely could have stepped up and done a better job. But I think as an industry that is new to political battles, right? We all got into this thinking we were going to get some kind of humanitarian award for saving
No
people's
doubt.
lives back in the day, like when we first started
No
in 2012. And I don't think as an industry, we were ready to have to become so politically savvy so fast. And I think that was just a tough adjustment for a new industry to make, to realize like, hey, we have to run our businesses, but we also have to hire lobbyists. We have to hire PR firms. We have to have all these consultants and, and do so much that was outside of the original scope of what we thought we were getting into when we were doing this. And I think, I think we've been through, some very tough years on the political front where we've had to very quickly learn how to fight battles where we were outspent, outmanned, and outgunned. And, the end of 2019 was hellacious, and 2020 hasn't been that great either. But I think, for where we're at as an industry, we've learned a lot in how we approach advocacy and politics. And I think we're getting better at it all the time.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the problem is, how do we go back and correct, especially some of these really bad laws that have passed in some really, really key states that really do have a problem with smoking?
Yeah.
And to back up on that a little bit, I totally agree with you. Like when I discovered vaping, and Phil will attest to this because we had this conversation, I think, back in 2012 when we met in Chicago. When I discovered vaping, I thought to myself, son of a bitch, this is the easiest thing for me to quit smoking. It's like, there's no way people will try this and not quit smoking. Like, there is absolutely no way that this product will not change the course of public health. That's what I thought to myself. A heavy smoker from Greece, right, where we're born with a cigarette in our mouths. And I quickly realized, I was like, oh shit. If this is going to change the way people smoke, then there's no way the government's going to leave it alone. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that the government's going to come after it. And this is exactly that we're seeing here. It's like the hardest I've ever fought across the world for vaping has been in the United States. Like, I always feel like I'm on the fence. I'm always on the ropes, and I'm getting beat down, whether it's going to be on a city, state, or federal level. And I feel like a lot of us over the years have felt like that.
No, it's true. And, just kind of to your point, I was an accidental quitter as well. I had no intention of stopping smoking when I started vaping. I just so happened to be in a situation for the weekend where I couldn't smoke, and somebody gave me an e-cig. And when I got back from that weekend, I didn't even want to go back to smoking. I wanted to go to the vape shop and get my own because it was absolutely just easy to quit. And I spent like the next month just kind of going back and forth between smoking and vaping, over about a 30-day period. And I ended up accidentally just quitting very easily. And I think you're right. That should have been a clue that this is going to attract some negative attention if it's that easy for people to quit smoking.
Hey, Amanda, before you basically said a lot of people, including yourself, you had to grow up. You had to start taking it seriously. You had to start learning to kind of play the political game. You had to do the hard things that were required to keep the industry around. First of all, I still think that there's a lot of people that haven't done that, right? That they still don't take it seriously, and they still play that childish game and the childish labels, and I still think that's around. But you also said we're getting better at it. We're getting better at it, but too late at this point.
That's hard to say, because I wish we had the political knowledge that we have now with the enthusiasm we had back in 2015, 2016, because
and
back
the money.
then everyone was participating in advocacy. Like, that was the cool thing to do. Like, if you weren't participating, like, you were missing out on all the cool photo opportunities with all the advocates in the industry. And advocacy, it used to be very cool. And so if we had that time period when it was cool, and with all of the knowledge that we have now, that would be a great combination. But at this point, do I think it's too late? Absolutely not. I don't think it's too late. I think there's been a lot of carnage that's been done that we're going to have to somehow now find a way to deal with, whether that's through introducing new bills and getting new bills passed to overturn things we don't like, or somehow trying to work with where we're at right now to kind of maybe get to a better position. I don't know if through this PMTA process that maybe that's something that can help, legitimize the industry and help deal with some of these laws. Because if you think about it, and I don't mean to get into AVM too prematurely, but if you think about it, what's at the end of the PMTA process is a very intriguing possibility for our industry, which is this designation of being appropriate for the protection of public health, right? And so if we have products that at the federal level have been deemed appropriate for the protection of public health, and at a state or local level they've been banned, that presents an interesting scenario to reapproach some of these legislatures of, how can your state be so regressive as to ban this product that's been deemed by the FDA as appropriate for the protection of public health? And even further, if some of those ever get into MRTP territory, and of course we've seen California recently not really care about any of that. And so it's not a guarantee to say any of that's going to work, but it could present a possibility to try to work with some of these places that have done these damaging things.
It also opens up the door to lawsuits. I mean, if once a product is deemed as appropriate, I mean, it gets market authorization, I should say, from the FDA, then it opens the door, not from us, but definitely from the big guys, to go out there and start suing these states and trying to overturn some of this stuff, because it's I have been saying for a very long time that a PMTA is the savior of this industry, and people in this industry hate me for it, Amanda. They really do. They hate me for it because they can't compete. They can't complete a PMTA, right? So I'm the bad guy because I bring up the fact that a PMTA is the savior. If I can tell somebody that this product, the government has told us that it's less harmful than cigarettes and less harmful than IQOS, then that's going to open up the doors to these vape shops to get the people back in there again. But the biggest issue I don't want to get specifics into that. Just give me a few more minutes before we get into the AVM. I want to go back a little bit to the state legislation. The biggest problem, I think, with state legislation that we have seen in the last year and a half, and I can tell you from my association, which is the oldest running independent state association in this state, is money. At this point, who is going to continue to fund this effort? I think the financial is a huge obstacle that we need to address, and we need to address it quickly. Because even for me, for this year, for the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association, this will be the first time that I'm struggling to budget for next year, and I always budget a year ahead of time. And I have a meeting tomorrow with my members to discuss about it. But if we don't have the correct funding, okay, so we need the correct people, we need the correct attitude, we need the correct lobbyists, consultants, PR firm, everything that you said. Obviously, I agree. Obviously, I've been doing it at least. But if we don't have the funding that goes along with it, how are we going to be able to accomplish that, at least on a state level?
Yeah, I mean, the funding is crucial. And I think, I look around at, my fellow state group leaders, and I know most of them are struggling when they're looking at 2021 and trying to budget for all the needs of the state organization for the upcoming session. And, everyone is in a really tight spot. And it's hard because all of our manufacturers are having to put out massive expenses on PMTAs. All of our retailers just went through COVID shutdowns. I mean, our distros have had problems with getting product in from China. I mean, there's multiple reasons why every segment of this industry has been hurt financially in the last year. And with all of the uncertainty of what's coming from FDA, I think there's just a lot less advocacy dollars that have been floating around due to multiple reasons. And just mainly, 2020 has just been an awful, awful year for people with in and outside of this industry. Just the economy's terrible, and it's coming back and everything. But I think the reverberations from that are still definitely being felt.
Speaking of state,
we went from EVALI to COVID. That didn't help, right?
Yeah. Both, by the way, have 5 letters in it. Is that a coincidence, or does anybody believe in the third dimension? Speaking of state law, there's a public hearing tomorrow in Phoenix, correct? And
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's actually really cool that we're doing this show, because for anybody that's watching, we have a call to action right now asking for people to go leave comments for a hearing tomorrow morning with the Phoenix City Council Public Safety Subcommittee. This is the first official council meeting where they're talking about this idea of a flavor ban that Tobacco Free Kids has been pushing around in Phoenix for a while now. And so, Tobacco Free Kids, when we started this today, there were 53 comments on this proposed flavor ban, and they were all in support. And so, we jumped on there and have been asking the vapors to go flood it with opposition comments, because we really don't want CTFK giving the impression that there's just 100% support for this. We want to show that there are a lot of people that oppose it. So
I put my comment up here too as well. There's my comment as well too. It's very, very easy to do for the people.
Super simple. Do you want to walk people through how to do that? Since you have it up, it's super easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get to the first. First, you have to register to speak, which is you have to click and make like a little account. You can use any email that you want. All they want to do is just register your email, and then you put the address. The address is not used anything. You can be anywhere in the United States. You don't have to be in Phoenix to do this, right? All you do is put your address. Once you register to speak, it gives you a little thing where you can actually see your name on there. And then you have 500 words. You can use 500 words or letters. Is it letters? I'm sorry. It could be letters.
I think it's words.
Words, 500 words.
No, it's letters. Okay. You're right.
Okay.
You're right. It's like
so it was kind of hard for me to, you know how I am when I start talking. I can keep it to 500 letters, but pick something that's very, very, straight and to the point. Whatever point you're trying to make, get in there and just put it in there. Even if you just say, hey, look, I use, a blueberry muffin flavor to quit smoking, and adults need them in order to transition from traditional. Anything that you put in there is fine. Just make sure that you hit that you oppose this bill, and then just hit submit, and it's done. I mean, it literally took me 30 seconds to do.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, Demi. I appreciate it, because we Tobacco Free Kids has never taken much action in Arizona, and we're on their radar now, and they are an entirely different enemy than Cancer Action Network and Lung and Hearts. Tobacco Free Kids is a much fiercer foe, and so them taking an interest in a position in Arizona is not a good thing, and we don't want them to win this for multiple reasons, but it will just embolden them to continue to just ravage our state. And we don't want to do that.
I think CTFK, what they do is when they find an opening and they can exploit it, they go in and they invest money. If they know that they can do something and get some traction, they're very well organized. Obviously, they're very well funded. And you're going to see people have gone on there and posted in support of this. And the wording is copy paste straight from Tobacco Free Kids. So either Tobacco Free Kids pay these guys, or they're part of that same group like we are, the vapors. We're doing the same thing, but they're going in there in support of this bill with clearly CTFK language. But I think that they do that in every state. Whenever they find an opening and they can put their foot in, when they face a lot of opposition, they back off. They're not going to waste money on a lost cause, something that the industry has been doing for the last 10 years for us. So, but what they're going to do is when they find that good opening, they're going to go invest money and try to make a change. It's going to make them look good. So that's going on in Phoenix tomorrow. All right. So moving ahead, By the way, 215-383-5752. If you have any questions, comments, or anybody care for a mint, you can feel free to call in. Amanda, the question of the hour, we have VTA, we have SFATA, we have EVCA, we have UVA, we have FDA, we have every acronym in the world. And now we have the AVM. Why the AVM?
Okay, so yes, I know, more alphabet organizations, right? Fun, right? Everyone's favorite thing. But AVM exists to serve a very specific and a very needed purpose at this time in our industry's evolution. So if you guys have been paying attention to vape social media over the last year, you've probably seen what 𝗫𝗏 has been doing in her PMTA sharing group to help small companies have documentation to submit for a PMTA. And kind of also parallel to that, for the last year, I've been lobbying in DC with FDA, HHS, Congress, and the White House, a small business streamlined PMTA proposal that lined up with the work that was being done in 𝗫𝗏's PMTA sharing group. And so through all of her efforts and all of my efforts on the lobbying side, the end result is we had about 230 companies that submitted at least 1.7 million SKUs for PMTA. And so what 𝗫𝗏 and I realized when we were getting close to the deadline is that, if these PMTAs are accepted for review, we're going to have to find a testing solution for the companies that are here for the long haul. A lot of people started their PMTA with the idea that they could only get 12 more months out of their business by completing the paperwork. But we don't want people to just get 12 more months and then lose their business. We want people to be viable for the long term, and we want to save this industry that we started, that we nurtured, that we grew, and that we loved. We are not going to stand by and watch FDA and big tobacco take that away from us because testing is expensive, basically. And so once we saw the early PMTAs we sent in come back with acceptance letters and filing letters and officially get into the review period, we thought, okay, yeah, this is real. We have a shot. We have to take this to the next level, because just doing this on a Facebook group informally, like we did all the submissions, is not going to work for scientific review period. We need to get serious, we need to get official, and we need to get organized. And so that's when the idea of creating a national manufacturers organization for companies not only needing testing, but also needing representation, because there are two components to AVM. There's a lobbying component, and then there's a testing component, right? And there are a lot of companies that were able to find testing solutions, but they weren't able to complete the whole guidance, like the clinical trials.
Oh, no way, yeah.
Testing. Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous, the full guidance. And so, we're still going to continue to lobby for reduced testing requirements, but at the same time, parallel to that, we're also finding solutions to bring people testing that don't have it. And so, and we really felt very strongly that we needed to organize in order to do that. And that effort wasn't intended to just create another org for the sake of having an org. And it certainly was not created to take anything away from our existing orgs and what they do. It's just really to make sure that the independent vapor manufacturers are not left behind in this process.
I mean, no matter what you do, when you start something like this, there's going to be backlash. And in fact, when me and you privately talked about this, I think it was about a month ago when the idea was entertained, you asked me what I thought about it. And I said, anything that you're going to do to help this industry is a good thing, and you should move forward, but expect that there's going to be, there's going to be people out there. And rightfully so, because Amanda, there have been fucking charlatans come through this industry and take a whole lot of money, promising a dream and promising, a light at the end of the tunnel, and all they got was like billions of gold and left, from this industry. Yeah. And so, I mean, and it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, is like, you have to be able to ignore the chatter if you have a vision whatever that vision is and do your thing. And then only time will tell what's going to come out of it. But if you have a vision, you need to move forward. Why not 𝗍𝗵𝗂? 𝗍𝗵𝗂 is an e-liquid manufacturing association here that was formed back 5-6 years ago. Standards, lobbying effort, at least until I left 𝗍𝗵𝗂. I think they were at the time starting a lobbying effort as well too with a lobbyist in DC. Why not work with an existing group to maybe change that and input your ideas to it?
Right. Well, that's a good question. And, just for the record, 𝗍𝗵𝗶 has been an 𝗍𝗵𝗂 member for a very, very long time. We've been an 𝗍𝗵𝗂 certified member for many, many years. And so that is absolutely, no kind of disrespect to 𝗍𝗵𝗂 in any way, shape, or form. I know when we first got involved in 𝗍𝗵𝗂, gosh, I think it was in like 2013. It was a long time ago. That did a lot to help us improve the quality of our manufacturing. And, 𝗍𝗵𝗂 has done good things for a lot of companies, mine included. But kind of what we're doing, it really is a continuation of the work that 𝗧 is doing and the work that I've been doing. And that work has a year-long history at this point. And we just wanted to put it into an official form instead of just existing on a Facebook group, and we had conversations with a lot of the major organizations before we did this. And one of the conversations that we had is about, for an existing org to take this on and to do something like this, it would almost be like a liability for an existing org, because there's a lot of work involved in it. I mean, this is going to be a full-time job until we get it done. There's a lot of, money that has to be spent. It has to be raised and spent in order to get this done. And, we just wanted to create a fresh instrument with which to do that, which is AVM. And also, to just be very honest with you, you guys know how it is with any of our major organizations. Pick one, any of them, you can find a very large group of people that have a lot of issues with that organization. And we wanted to start this with a fresh slate,
No doubt about that.
with no existing group of haters. And we didn't want to enter into the org turf wars. We just wanted to start with a really fresh slate, and without all that baggage. Because AVM is what 𝗧 and I have been doing for the last year, just with a lot more resources behind it and on steroids, and so that's kind of the reasoning for creating this new organization.
I say, I don't know. I mean, my comment would be, and anybody that's asked me privately, I say, this is exactly what I tell them. I said, they're doing something which is more than what you're doing right now, just simply asking me to stir up shit, They're doing something, and I'll be the bad guy here, Amanda. I'm going to tell you, we've been ineffective. We have been ineffective, especially in the federal level, across the board for the last 10 years in this industry. Period.
Right.
And nobody can dispute that. Am I wrong, Phil? Give me a win that I can.
No, I mean, there haven't been any wins. There haven't been any big wins by any big organizations. I mean, I'm very proud of what just happened in Florida with the veto of the flavor ban. But like federally, what has happened? Really, nothing good. Amanda, how many people or how many companies? You said that millions of SKUs were put in for PMTA.
Yeah, so through the PMTA sharing group, I think we had filed at least 1.7 million SKUs. We were keeping a thread that had a tally on it. And I know not everybody participated in that thread, but from the people who responded, it added up to 1.7 million.
Okay.
So I imagine it's probably well over 2 million in reality.
Okay, so I'm not playing the bad guy, right? But I want to understand this, because here's what I've been hearing all along, and from Dimitri as well, right? That a PMTA just costs a tremendous amount of money, a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of testing, a tremendous amount of papers and documentation, right? How has our side of the industry, not big tobacco, our side of the industry, been able to put through millions of SKUs for PMTA? I'm very happy about that, but just help me understand how that happens.
Yeah, sure. So there are a few different factors that led into that. I mean, number one, anybody that's been kind of paying attention, because I don't talk too much about when I'm doing lobbying stuff, except maybe to post a picture or two. I don't share too many details about what I'm doing, just because it's not really smart to share that kind of information, publicly. But I've spent a very long time and a lot of money and a lot of, flying back and forth in the last year, kind of setting the table for those applications to be accepted. I mean, I've met with the White House. I've met with the entire Senate Help Committee one-on-one. I've met with HHS more times than I can count. We've had senators calling into FDA and HHS for over a year. We've had representatives calling into FDA and HHS and writing in for over a year. And we've just had just a solid year of me just basically begging and schmoozing and doing, donating and doing anything I could to increase the odds that we could possibly get through this process. And it was just a hell of a lot of lobbying, for one. Number two, Shar is very brilliant at a lot of things, and she figured out how to automate a lot of this, because just doing the paperwork on the number of SKUs my company has would have taken forever.
Yeah, I know.
Trust me, Phil knows.
Because Dimitri, he put me to work like slave labor
Put Phil
in
to
his
work.
Basement one night. It was terrible. It was horrible. He chained me to a desk. It was terrible. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's terrible and hard. And, but Shar figured out how to use, programs and technological stuff that I don't understand to automatically generate, these same documents, but specific to each product. And I am still impressed at what she was able to do. It was absolutely brilliant. And so, we had a lot of help from Azim Chowdhury, who was helping with certain things. Shar's work, all of the lobbying. It was just really a team effort on behalf of a lot of people. We just kind of, it's cool to me the way that we did PMTA, because it's very reflective of the type of industry we are. We bootstrapped the hell out of it. And, and we came, and it only worked. It only worked because all of those companies decided to do it together. And part of that was Shar's brilliance, because she knew a year ago that she could do this for her company and pull it off. But if she knew that if she was one little tiny company doing this alone, the FDA could swat her away like a fly. Right. But if she went in there with an entire small business industry, that's much harder to just wipe everybody out and deny everybody from the get-go before they even get a chance. And so, she had the foresight to know that she couldn't just set about to do something to help herself. She had to set about to do something to help everyone. And it was brilliant. And I think, I think it'd make a cool movie one day. If we get through this to marketing orders, it'd make a really cool movie of how it was done, because it's just, it restores my faith in the industry, because it was a whole bunch of people just giving their time and their skill set to a cause to benefit more than just their self. And it was awesome. And we're just going to take that now and go to the next level.
I'm getting word that the servers on that Phoenix, Arizona website are wonky. I guess a lot of people were trying. Just do me a favor, keep at it, or wait till after the stream, one at a time, and just don't quit on it. Just keep trying to leave your comment on there. It might be that a lot of people hit it at the same time, and it's a government website. It's that's what you can expect. But anybody that's there, please just keep at it. I want to say something about what happened in that Facebook PMTA. I mean, I can imagine, I don't know what the future is going to be, but 20 years from now, there's going to be a documentary that talks about this group. I think what it did is it gave a breath just a relief breath for all these small business owners that were doomed to the PMTA. And it kind of renewed everybody's energy. I know a lot of people put thousands of hours to get to this step and complete this step, with a lot of obstacles in the way, a lot of data entry, a lot of the unknown, right? That had to be kind of dissected through this Tobacco Control Act document that is just a behemoth to understand. But what it did is it gave a lot of people hope, okay? Which is a really good thing in this industry. We need to have hope in order to be successful and to move on. And it showed once again, like you said, Amanda, that this industry, when it's faced with adversity, they're gonna find a way, and they have every step of the way since this was announced back in 2014. All these years, the industry has done its best to comply with every step of the way, and I think on the PMTA as well too, that CHAR and to be fair, there was a lot of companies outside of that group that filed PMTAs as well too. So I just want to make sure that that's put in there, because you know me, I'm fair and balanced. Because there's a lot of companies that privately did a lot of work to submit PMTAs as well too. So the open vapor industry was not doing anything. A lot of people were doing stuff, trying to comply. But the point that I'm trying to bring up here is that we filed PMTAs, and that puts us in the next level, which will be filing and eventually scientific review. And in my opinion, and has always been my opinion, that next step needs addressing, because as it stands right now, again, this is my opinion and my opinion only. As it stands right now, as it's written in the Tobacco Control Act, I find it nearly impossible for 99.9% of the companies to be able to complete a PMTA as it's written, as in the statute, as it's written. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I would agree with that, because if you look at that full PMTA guidance, I mean, a clinical trial on every product. I mean, come on.
Impossible.
Who can do that?
Impossible.
Who can do that outside of Altria? You can't.
Right. Or if you have one or two SKUs and you have, a bunch of backers that are just dumping millions onto you. And again, I don't even know if you have the time to complete that unless you have an Altria that has a scientific, lab of their own and been collecting data for the last 5 years. I don't think that the time allocated is enough. And I think that's where, in my humble opinion, I think that's where the AVM can really shine, and is to bring as much attention where every other group has failed, bring as much attention to that step. This is the most critical part, I think, whether it comes from Congress or whether it comes from the FDA. It's going to have to come from the FDA, but at some point, the FDA is going to have to look at that and say, well, our sweet soccer mom Amanda and her group have submitted 2 million PMTAs. And when we're looking through this data, it's all the same shit. It's all the same stuff. It's a basic product that meets the same parameters, with the exception of some different flavorings that are being used. There's no way that they're not able to determine that right now, but let's say it takes them 6 months, because that's how the federal government works. But at some point, they're going to realize that. That is, I think, the crucial play for the org, is how do we bring attention to the FDA and say, okay, well, we can't take this square peg and put it in the circle. It's just not going to work. We need to come up with a different solution for these manufacturers. I don't think it's going to be free, but I don't think it's going to be as expensive and as timely as it is right now.
Right, absolutely. And we're spending a lot of time on that. And I know, we'll talk about that letter from Congress.
Sure.
But that's just one very small example of the level of communication that we're having sent to FDA on our behalf. We're using all of the people that we can find that have that kind of political power to weigh in on this topic with FDA and also with the administration. And, luckily over the last year, I've built a very good relationship with HHS. And as you guys probably saw, there was some news that came out a few weeks ago about how Secretary Alex Azar is going to be personally signing off on any new rules and guidelines that come out of FDA. And so, we revisited that conversation with HHS last week. And, just to clarify, is that true in regards to CTP, PMTA, everything going on with that? Because HHS has been telling us for a long time that there will be changes to the guidelines in the 12 months following the deadline, right? And so now that HHS is kind of the one signing off on all of that and steering that ship, they're looking at having more influence in what those guidelines are. And that's sort of the conversation that we had with them last week about, how those guidelines could benefit the independent manufacturers trying to participate in this process, because our message is just really that everybody deserves a fair chance to participate in the process. You shouldn't have to be a multi-billion-dollar international corporation to continue to be able to run your business. This is America, and I know American capitalism gets monopolistic, but I still want to hold on to the hope that, this idea that the free market's a real thing and the government isn't going to be handing out monopolies to corporations.
That's
and that's the kind of the message we've been trying to bring. And it's a good message, because it's a message that both sides of the aisle can be sympathetic to. That's even a message that Democrats are often sympathetic to when you point out to them how the current PMTA guidelines are going to give a monopoly to these very companies that have done evil things to people, and the small players who started this for the right reasons are the ones that are being left out of that process.
If you give me 10 minutes with any politician, I can explain to them the PMTA. None of them knew. None of them knew how extensive and how burdensome and how complicated and expensive this process is. In fact, most of the politicians that I talk about, no idea. Most of the politicians that I talk to, they're like, oh, okay, well, now the FDA is going to, approve your products. You're going to be okay. And I was like, what? It doesn't work like that. And then when you go into the conversation with them, I agree with you there, but I also can, just bring up Walmart and just end that conversation right there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not,
I know.
It's the American dream is not what it used to be when I came to this country 30 years ago. It's definitely not the same, right? But we have another thing going for us as well, too, which kind of gets lost in the conversation. Yes, we have the business, but we have a product that can help people quit smoking. So, I think that combined, the harm reduction aspect of it combined with a small business aspect, I think is a better 1-2 punch than just saying small businesses, that go out there. And we'll talk about the letter in Congress in just a second. I want to go back a little bit to the PMTAs. What we have seen is really nothing from the FDA. I mean, a few things here, change some tabs, for some of the guys that submitted some applications, and some of the way that it was structured. But really, we have not seen enforcement. We have not seen rejections, flat out. Have you heard of a flat out rejection?
I haven't encountered anyone that's gotten a rejection.
I have not heard deficiency letters. I have not seen anything. I have not seen a list like they said that they're going to put out
How
there.
about acceptance letters? Have many?
Oh, don't bring that up. That's a sore
acceptance letters
subject
gone out
with
for
me and
filing?
Amanda. You're going to create drama between me and Amanda. But acceptance letters, a lot of companies have received acceptance letters. Very few companies have received filing letters. But it looks like companies are getting filed.
Yeah, so Demi, and I'll go back and I'll circle back and I'll tell you, when we first had this conversation about the letters, you were right. And
oh my God. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that, Phil?
Yes, Demi was right and I was wrong.
Wow.
So we sent in Allison from 𝗍𝗂𝐶 Charleston. She sent in a PMTA on one SKU early. It was kind of like, how they send a canary down the coal mine. It was like our pilot PMTA.
Yeah.
And she got she was the first one to get a letter, and it was the acceptance letters, the one that at the top right, it says acceptance in bold letters. And in the body of the letter, they talk about like requesting samples of your product and all of that sort of stuff. And they use the word review at some point. And I also saw on a website that had an example of EAS's letter that they had for their review period. It was the acceptance letter that Allison got. And so I was wrong. Because then Allison got the filing letter that made it very, very explicit that she was in the review period.
Correct.
And so after I saw that, I will go back and acknowledge like I was mixed up on which letter signified review.
It happens.
But we do have PMTAs now. I think we have about 4 or 5 of them out of that group that have acceptance and filing letters. So
we're seeing filings.
But I called it way too soon, Demi. You were right.
No, I mean, look, it's okay. I think that it's crucial to be honest with people, whether that's small manufacturers, medium manufacturers, and consumers. I think honesty is very, very important. And I think it's something that's been missing from advocacy, to be honest with you, in the last 10 years. But I think that when we're trying to tell people, hey, we're trying to do this, let's at least put the accurate things out there, and then the accurate expectations as well too. You have somebody, and I'm going to bring this example. You have somebody like Mark Block that comes along and says to the industry, hey, I have this letter from the FDA that talks about cloud chucking, right? I have this letter. And then you have these people that are just dumping money into them, right? Like, this guy is going to save because he has this 95-year-old attorney that's claiming fucking land somewhere or what. I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's laughable, but now it's laughable. But at the time, they took in a lot of money, right? And I don't think that the accurate information, even at that time, when we were trying to spread that information, there was being opposition from industry, from advocates, from business owners. Phil will tell you that Lonnie Bozeman and me in California, I mean, Lonnie was adamant. We almost got in a fight in a parking lot. He's telling me, like, this guy is going to save this industry.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
Not against you, Amanda. It's not against you. All thing is, it's just people should have the right information, and then they can determine. They can make. But they're all adults and businessmen. They can make the determination of, do I want to proceed? If I want to proceed, what are my expectations going to be? We can't set these things up where, this is it, and then everybody gets let down, and that just hurts us more on the continued effort of what we're trying to do. Again, this is not to you, Amanda. This is just in general with the misinformation that goes on and all the Facebook attorneys that are out there.
Amanda, I do want you to know that Dimitri does a fantastic job multitasking. Since we've been talking, he already has 10,000 Amanda Said I Was Right t-shirts being made and mugs. Okay.
Yes.
And he also has the website, amandasaidIwasright.com. It's already parked. It's unbelievable. The things that he could do while he does the show. It's amazing.
All profits go to 𝗍𝗂. No, so, but I want to go back to the PMTA just a little bit. What my original question was. The FDA really hasn't done anything. I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make. It's like we haven't seen any action. And action, whether it's good or bad, is action. We haven't seen anything. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? That's the question that I want to get to.
It's a good thing for me because we're in a game against a clock that we can't see, right? Mm-hmm. We're right now racing against a clock that we can't see. And there's the issue of the 12-month deadline and the Grimm case. But the more time that we get between now and the first deficiency letter, the better. Mm-hmm. So from my perspective, for the purpose that I'm trying to accomplish, I'm kind of okay with it. I know that there are probably a lot of people that are not for varying reasons, but right now for what we're trying to do, I'm glad that Operation Slowdown was successful.
I totally agree with you. I 110. And no news is always good news when it comes to the federal government, to me, in my opinion. But it does give us that other question that goes along with it. We have a 12-month deadline, as you said, in a court case. And for those of you that don't know, last year in the court, it was decided that the industry has to file PMTAs by May of 2020. That was extended to September of 2020 due to COVID. And then that the FDA has, based on this is the court that's ruled, the FDA has 12 months to review these submissions and determine if these products should stay on the market or not. What happens at the end of 12 months? This is very, very crucial. I don't know the answer. I'm asking you because, you're in the AVM and you're the expert now. So I have to ask you, what happens when those 12 months are up and we haven't heard anything from the FDA, legally at least?
Well, I think legally at that point, the NGOs would probably go back to court, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because in the court ruling, and this information is coming from talking to Azim, who's an attorney on the case. I'm sure everybody watching knows who Azim is. I don't know why I felt the need to explain that. But from talking to Azim, how that's written is that they can go beyond the 12 months on a case-by-case basis, right? And so what we want to show them between now and the 12 months is that we've made substantial progress, right? If at the, my hope is that by the end of 12 months, we will have accomplished the level of testing that we want to accomplish for these companies, and we'll have that all put in. And so that when we're looking for these case by case, extensions of the deadline, that the work that we've done up to that point can maybe earn us a spot on that case by case list. But really, I don't even know at this point their capacity for reviewing PMTAs within 12 months. Like, how many can they review in that time? 100? 5? Like, let's be ambitious. 100? Can they review 1,000 PMTAs in the next 12 months? They've got millions of them. So they've got a real problem on their hands. And what I want to be able to do, right, this is the hope and the dream, is the FDA has this giant problem, right? And I want to be able to go in and say, AVM represents all of these STNs by all of these companies that have created this huge problem for you. And here is the solution, right? We've got a solution to deal with all of these SKUs. And here is A, B, C, D, exactly what we're going to do. And so I'm hoping that maybe the fact that they have a big problem on their hands and we're going to step in as a very organized group and say, we have this solution for you, that they will avail themselves of that opportunity to get out of this predicament they're in by working with us.
I like that approach, but again, because I'm a fair and balanced guy, there's also the opportunity for the FDA to say, well, you don't have any scientific data in your PMTA and it gets kicked out. That's the easiest way for the FDA to get rid of 1.7 million PMTAs.
Well, absolutely. But so we're going to have the scientific part up and running. I am hoping,
by scientific, I mean the entire thing for the PMTA. I'm not just talking about HPHCs and stability testing and all that.
Right. And that's the part where, we're going to just lobby as hard as we can for that reduced testing requirement for these independent manufacturers. Because, Demi, to your point earlier about the companies that have already gone out and done the testing, that's true. There are companies that have spent a tremendous amount of time and money on getting their testing in. And that's awesome, but we don't want to see those companies get knocked out of the process for lack of clinical trials either. And so really the work that we're doing is intended to benefit everyone, regardless of whether they have testing or not, because I haven't met anybody that's got all of it.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I don't know about you and anybody else that does consulting work, but in my clients, I was straight up honest with everybody. I told them, I said, this is just bare bones minimums, and this is not a complete PMTA. And to be fair, even the companies that, I only represent a few companies, but the companies that I've been working with, we actually had a plan with a 2022 date that Gottlieb had said. We had actually set a timeline of work to be done. And with the shortened length of it, it was just absolutely no way. Even if they wanted to spend the money to do it, we couldn't do it. But I think, once again, to what I was saying earlier, we have to put the honesty out there and then let the people decide what they want to do. You can take this approach and say, well, I'm going to do a little bit of scientific work where I can, some stability, some HPHC testing, and submit it with my products to show good faith that I've done that. And then hopefully the FDA comes back and says, well, we need some more. That's my hope. And I've been very clear about that publicly and privately as well, too,
Yeah, because right now, the testing plan that AVM is set up, we're going to have product-specific aerosolized HPHC and stability testing. And that's an ambitious goal, and we can pull that off. But, if FDA comes back and says, okay, we need this one extra layer from you, right? We want to be prepared to then, figure out how we're going to offer that next step, that next layer, because potentially we could offer them more testing. Once we get this going and running and cranking out, we can turn the scientific team to designing that next layer of testing and work with the FDA, after we submit HPHC and stability. It's just, there are a lot of unknowns right now because a lot of it is going to depend on how FDA decides they're going to treat us, and there are a lot of unknowns with that.
Do you agree that post-market surveillance is maybe an even better option? I think maybe this is a conversation I have in private, but I think that the FDA has an opportunity, if they really look at the data and see that nobody has died from this product in the last 10 years. I mean, nobody has died. I mean, we can prove a lot of people have quit smoking, but they definitely can't prove that our products have caused the death. Okay? Isn't it an opportunity for the FDA to say, okay, well, maybe you're not even required, because if you look at the TBD, okay, if you look at the TBD testing, you know, which is a fairly easy process for companies to put liquid on the market in Europe, you know, with nicotine. If you look at the TBD testing, what they do in Europe mostly is they look at the post-market surveillance. So through the EU system of reporting adverse effects, deaths, poisonings, and stuff like that, they're able to keep eye. And what they've seen in the last 3 years is that like nobody really has gotten sick from vaping in Europe. Wouldn't that be a good approach for here as well too? And say, hey, look, you know, we'll file you some scientific information for our product, which is needed. I mean, for crying out loud, you know, I'll be the first one to tell you stability is fucking needed. Okay, you're putting a date on your product. You should prove to the FDA how you came up with that date. But aside from that, can't we tell the FDA, hey, look, put some stringent post-market surveillance rules into play, put these products on the market, give them market authorization, and twice a year they're going to have to file a report, and then keep track of use, behavioral study, initiation, quitting, adverse effects, poisonings. And if you monitor the product on the market, which has been on the market already 10 years, then that gives us a better, I'm not going to say an easiest way, but this gives the FDA even more data for the product coming from the companies that are monitoring and submitting this post-market surveillance.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the post-market surveillance is going to be crucial to this entire endeavor.
And we saw it with IQOS, by the way, as well, too. We saw it with IQOS because FDA did it with the IQOS.
Right. And I think that's a very valid point to be made, that instead of requiring like these just ungodly levels of testing, let's stick with some basic testing and some really strong post-market surveillance. I think that's an excellent case to the FDA, and that's part of the case that we'll be making in the lobbying arm of AVM.
Congress, we have this letter here. Let me bring it up. I've got it opened up here.
Hey, before you bring it up, a couple questions. So, Amanda, can I assume that at this point, all of the PMTAs you've been involved in have been e-liquid, not hardware?
Correct.
Okay. And
I don't know the first thing about hardware PMTAs.
Okay. Okay, D.
There
was one other question. Yeah. You guys both mentioned a 12-month deadline. Something's coming up in 12 months. For those of us who are clueless on the PMTA process, right? Because that's me. What does the 12-month? What is going to happen in 12 months?
Go ahead, Amanda.
The 12 months is the time frame that was given to the FDA in the Maryland case by Judge Grimm to review PMTAs. So it's written up in there where they can case by case basis go beyond that, but that is what the outcome of that case was. The FDA has 12 months to review these. So that would be September 9th, 2021.
Okay, so that's very interesting. So they have literally millions of SKUs to go through in 12 months.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're already a month into that 12. Right.
Yes. Yes. There's absolutely
and we've seen nothing.
There's no feasible way that the FDA can get through this. Not in a rational action anyway. All right, let me bring this letter up. This is part of what you guys are planning on doing, and you've already done it. This is a letter written from Congress, actually from Debbie Lesko and Matt Gaetz. This is to the director, Mitch Zeller, for the Center for Tobacco Products. I'm just going to read it because I think it's very, very important for people to hear it, and I think it is very accurate, and it's the actual reality of what's happening to this really unique industry that has been born in the last decade here in the United States. Dear Director Zeller, thank you for your hard work in handling the many pre-market tobacco applications submitted to the FDA by small vapor businesses. In an effort to better understand your PMTA intentions, we are requesting clarifications specifically related to PMTAs filed by small businesses with potential deficiencies. It is our understanding that these businesses have participated in the federal regulatory process in a good faith effort to comply with recent FDA PMTA guidelines. However, COVID-19 has placed well-documented and significant limitations on laboratory testing, which is necessary for full compliance with PMTA guidelines. Additionally, the exceptional cost and the backlog of over 1.7 million PMTA applications puts nearly 14,000 responsible small vaping businesses in a vulnerable position. Many are at risk of permanently closing down their operations without some sort of temporary explosion, while FDA responds to the issues mentioned above. As you are aware, the independent vapor industry functions quite differently than that of the large tobacco industry. The bigger manufacturers rely largely on a network of convenience stores to sell their vapor products. The independent vapor industry largely manufactures lower concentration nicotine vaping liquids sold in dedicated vape shops that are staffed by individuals with specialized training. Additionally, vape shops typically do not allow minors to enter their stores and ensure extensive age verification protocols that differ from convenience stores. Unlike the large tobacco companies, nearly 14,000 small vape shops are in danger of going out of business if the FDA does not delay or make adjustments to their PMTA guidelines. These small businesses support 160,000 jobs and produce an economic impact of over $24 billion. In the interest of economic health for small business across the nation, we ask that you work with these small vapor businesses to find a reasonable solution to the problems arising from the PMTA requirements. Thank you for your consideration. The goal of this letter, I think, is more of I mean, whatever you're saying in there, Mitch Ziller knows, obviously. But I think that the goal of this letter is like a little tap from the shoulder from Congress that wrote, by the way, the Tobacco Control Act and say, hey, Mitch, we keep an eye on you here. You asked for PMTAs. Now you got all these PMTAs in there. What is your next step going to be? And how are you going to work with these small businesses? Am I correct?
I think if you look at the real meat of the letter is the end of that first paragraph where they're basically telling FDA that they want an answer on how FDA intends to deal with these small businesses. And so, the point of that is, to have powerful and influential people let FDA know that they're watching this, that they want small business to be treated fairly, and they want some answers on how FDA intends to deal with small businesses that have deficiencies. And, that the way that letter was put together and worded, there's always politics involved on, being polite while you're pointing out the facts and trying to get an outcome. But, there was a lot of balance in what we were trying to do with that letter. But that last end of the first paragraph is the really crucial part of what we want, is we want some answers.
Can I be the devil's advocate again?
Debbie, let's go, and Matt gets want answers.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about that letter? Wasn't a very, very similar letter sent to the FDA to get the PMTA deadline extended, and it was completely denied?
So there were a lot of things that went to the FDA to get the deadline extended. We had many companies send an individual request for extensions. We did a formal 21 CFR petition with Azim, which Demi was very, very helpful in bringing us lots of affidavits on that. So thank you, Demi. But yeah, we put in all sorts of requests for extensions, and it became very clear that those extension requests were not going to be granted. But it's interesting, FDA on the phone has been saying that they're still accepting applications from people, even though the deadline's passed.
Well,
So we didn't get an extension, but we have this weird situation where the deadline's passed and they're saying they're still accepting applications. So it's bizarre.
I think it's very important for people to understand FDA enforcement discretion. These are very, very important words. No matter what a judge says, no matter what Congress says, FDA has enforcement discretion. And I think the fact that they're still accepting applications is a silent way of saying, hey, we got fucked by the judge as well too. And, keep sending your stuff in, we'll take it, and then, we'll cross the next path as we go along. The point that I want to bring up, and why I believe that the FDA is using enforcement discretion heavily, and nobody's keeping them in check, is they have received multiple letters from Congress to ban flavored products. Okay? I can bring you up at least 5 letters right now from Congressman Crossa douchebag from fucking Illinois and Rosenthal and Durbin, that they have sent multiple letters signed by a lot of powerful people within Congress that the FDA has completely ignored because they haven't banned these products as well too. So, it goes both ways. And again, Amanda, I'm always trying to be fair and balanced. And that's why I bring it up, is that I understand the pressure that we're getting in there, but is the end result going to come from something that the FDA can easily just say, hey, listen, based on the FDA enforcement discretion that we have and what Congress has given us as far as the Tobacco Control Act, this is the way it's going to be, whether it's good or bad. It could go our way, because they do have that enforcement discretion. They could say, fuck it, let's all 1.7 million, let's go, all authorized. We'll get PMTA for everybody. You get a PMTA, you get a PMTA, you get a PMTA. I mean, they can do it. Shit, they can do it. They have the enforcement discretion. But the truth is that they're not really swayed by that.
Right. It's interesting because, I mean, you're going to get into some DC political dynamics here.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just bringing it up.
It's just, I always am hesitant to discuss lobbying.
No, and I don't want to. I don't want it publicly.
When enemies are watching, but
I don't want it publicly either.
We're accounting for what you're talking about. We're accounting for it and how we're approaching our lobbying.
I'm just putting it out there.
The letter from Congress is something that we can publicly show everyone. There's a lot more of that's happening that's not really publicly available.
Yeah,
to show.
you want to know the honest to God truth. The reason why I bring it up is because I don't like lazy advocacy, and I don't want somebody, which happens all the time, Amanda. I don't want somebody looking at this letter and saying, "Okay, problem solved." No,
it's one piece from 2 members of Congress.
You understand what I'm saying, though. This happens a lot within because again, it's just an immature, it's a baby industry. A lot of people don't understand politics. Unfortunately, some of them don't actually represent us too, but that's a different story for a different episode. But people don't understand politics and how it works. I don't want people looking at that and say that's the end of all. I think it's another piece to the puzzle, but this should be just motivating factor. I'll be honest with you, stuff like that motivates me personally to keep pushing and fighting, and it shouldn't be something that somebody looks at and says, okay, well, it's done. Don't worry. Amanda's going to save the world. Don't worry. Everything's done. Everything's done.
No, I mean, part of I certainly don't want anyone to get the impression of like, oh, yay, we're saved. Congress wrote a letter to the FDA. Yeah. That was 2 members of Congress that wrote a letter to the FDA. There are lots of members of Congress. And as Demi pointed out, Krishnamurthy and, DeGette and Durbin and the gang, they aren't taking a break off of this topic. They love weighing in on this topic. And so, part of what we're doing is we're having the alternative viewpoint weigh in, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're doing a lot of other stuff on multiple political fronts because it is going to take a lot of political capital and a lot of political pressure to solve this problem. And that letter from Congress was just, one small piece of what we're doing.
Yeah, I'll get to your questions in just a little bit. Bill Tarling is collecting questions on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you, Bill, as always, for your help. By the way, the phone lines are open. Nobody wants to call in. 215-383-575. Don't be shy. Amanda doesn't bite. She's a sweetheart. Question. Could the Judge Ghrim lawsuit order all the vape products off the market until testing can be done?
I don't think so, because it's interesting, right? I mean, it gets into FDA rules and guidelines, and we had this ability from the deeming regs that if your product was on the market prior to 8/8/16, you can stay on the market, up into the deadline, and then while your product is in that review period. And so, once we're in the review period, if we don't address those deficiencies to their satisfaction, they will order us off the market. And that's why we're working so hard to address those deficiencies. But right now, the way the guidelines are written, if you're on the market prior to 2016, 8/8/16, and you filed a PMTA, you're good through the review period.
Yeah, I don't think
1 year time frame.
I don't think they're looking at the prior to August 2016 yet within the FDA, because there's a lot of products that have been applied that are not pre-August 8th of 2016. So I haven't seen a rejection for those products either. So I don't even think that the FDA has.
They've gotten into the meat of anything.
I don't think they've gotten into the meat of anything. So, you're right, accurate. In the way that you described it, You have to be on the market prior to August 8th of 2016. You must have submitted a PMTA. It must be accepted. You can continue to sell for a year. That's basically the process, how it goes along. But the FDA really hasn't gotten it. And I don't think that the judge, that would probably take, I mean, the FDA, in order to remove a product from the market, they have to go through a process. And I don't think a judge can do that. I think that the FDA can do it, but I don't think that the judge can do it. That's, again, my opinion. I think we said the same thing, Amanda. I'll get to that question, 𝗪𝗏𝗏. I'll get to that question in a little bit. We need to get back to the American vapor manufacturers a little bit and dive in a little bit more on that. How are we approaching this as far as board decisions, executive director, memberships? What has been just far? I mean, you just launched it yesterday. How has the response have been from manufacturers joining up? You're going to need money for this, Amanda. I'll be the first one to tell you. You're going to need money to do this, and that requires membership.
Yeah, we need $2.5 million. That's the number.
Yeah, that's a hefty goal. I mean, that's a very big goal, and it's a realistic goal. To me, it's not surprising at all. People hear this like, $2.5 million. I mean, you know, we could have in 2016 we could have raised $2.5 million in a month. You know, but it's difficult now.
Yeah, because I mean, how that $2.5 million is divided up. I mean, you know, the vast majority of that is the testing itself and the money that we need to complete that part of it. You know, the other $500,000 of it is a goal for lobbying and all of those sorts of expenses. How the board is set up. So we have 4 board members that were the founding board members of the organization, simply because when you're creating an organization, you need some people to form it and start it and all of that.
Correct.
So I'm the president of the board. Shar is the vice president. We have Victoria Drower, who is the secretary, and then Belinda Dudziak, who is the treasurer. And
all female cast, ladies and gentlemen, all female cast, and this is the turning point. It's
been a woman production so far.
This is a turning point in vaping. I'm telling you, women are going to take over. They are going to solve the issue where all these men in suits and high hopes and dreams and full of money in their pockets have failed.
Well, you know, there's something about, I don't know what, you know, I mean, we can pontificate on the reasons why it ended up being all female, but, you know, I think conversational dynamics and interpersonal dynamics are an interesting thing, right? Because it's hard to
I will say it, Amanda. I'll say it. I want you to be political correct.
Very polite.
I don't want you to piss off anybody, Amanda. I'll say it. This industry is very sexist, and they don't want a woman to come and tell them what to do in politics. They don't want a woman to come and tell them how they're going to run their organization. They don't want a woman to come and tell them how you're going to talk to a politician. The men know everything. There you go. I said it for you. You don't have to say it. You still remain politically incorrect and sweet and the housewife.
Yeah, you saw my long pause. I was thinking of how to phrase this.
I'll say it for you because I've seen it. It's absolutely true. I mean, it's true, and I don't blame you. Listen. I don't mind. I'm refreshed that this is an all-female cast. I am really refreshed.
We don't have any egos getting in the way. We're just doing the job that needs to be done.
Yeah, there's a lot of egos in vaping, and there's a lot of egos in advocacy. Unfortunately, it always has been in this industry. It's been a big downfall. So membership. What has the initial response been? I know you have 3 tiers, right? If I'm not, let me pull this back up for everybody to see. So this is basically it. It's 3 tiers. And I want to make sure people understand, like, before I get into the tiers, who should join, Amanda? This is a very burning question. Who should join the AVM?
If you're a manufacturer who has filed a PMTA and you don't have the entire suite of testing in the PMTA guidance, you should join AVM and support the lobbying effort. If you have testing, you don't necessarily need to do the testing portion of AVM, but the membership dues solely support the lobbying and the work of the organization in representing the industry. So anyone who has filed that doesn't have it all the way to the point of clinical trials, get in here, let us represent you, let us do lobbying on your behalf. And then if you have filed a PMTA and you don't have the full testing, you should definitely be in here participating in both the representation and the testing aspect of it. We are also taking memberships from suppliers to manufacturers, flavor houses, bottle suppliers, anybody that supplies manufacturers. We're taking those memberships as well. We are staying away from retailer and consumer memberships simply because the scope of the organization is really to solve a problem that is directly related to manufacturing. And we've already had a lot of retailers reach out and say, this is so great. We want to donate to help support the manufacturers. We see the struggle that you guys are in FDA and we want to support. And, for those people, I love and appreciate where that intention is coming from. But send your money to one of the other orgs that's doing good work that you believe in, and support those guys. I think right now, this is a problem that the manufacturers are facing, and the manufacturers need to step up and handle.
And please don't ever change that like VTA did. I get consumers and start making a consumer membership, which is a huge mistake. But anyway, back.
I know where you're going with that.
I'm not going anywhere. This is not a drama show.
I know where you're going with that.
Let
me ask the question. Okay. So like from somebody who doesn't understand how all this works, why, what's the difference between you and VTA? Shouldn't VTA be doing this?
Well, so I'm going to say this part without mentioning any specific group of people. And I'm going to borrow some of Demi's boldness here, and I'm just going to say what I think. If you look around and you look at what's happened over the last year, nobody stepped up to the plate with FDA. Nobody did.
Absolutely.
There were people out there that were content to let manufacturers my size and smaller and bigger for that matter, sort of die on the vine. Everybody saw what the hell was happening. Everybody knew what was coming. I was screaming it from the rooftops back when we started Fight to Survive, and everybody knew. That's why 1,500 businesses signed that letter, because everybody knew that we had this huge problem. But nobody stepped up to deal with it. And it was just a problem that needed addressing. And so I started addressing it. 𝗨 started addressing it. Individual companies were out there, struggling to address it on their own and trying to cobble together a PMTA and pouring every dime they had into it and, really struggling. And like, there was a leadership vacuum and an advocacy vacuum around that whole issue. And, I think those of us that were trying to solve that problem were asking for help that wasn't coming. And so we just decided, we realized that we were kind of in this on our own. And so.
No, I think, okay, let me step in again. Let me step in and answer that too, Phil. Nobody wants.
What was that, D? I couldn't hear what you just said.
Let me step in and answer that.
Thank you, Amanda, by the way. Thank you for that.
Let me answer it just a little bit more boldly than Amanda. Nobody's done a fucking thing. Nobody. And they don't want anybody coming in and telling them what to do or saying, hey, take a look at this. And this is across the board. It's one of the reasons why I backed off. I was very, very heavily involved in the VTA the first year. And nothing against the VTA. They've done some good things. There's no doubt about it. And I'm still a member. I might not be next year because we don't have any money, but I'm still a member as of right now. But the issue arises when you step up and you say, hey, okay, good here. But how about this? Is anybody going to talk about this? Then all of a sudden you become the bad guy. Not only is your opinion not taken seriously, then you become an enemy because you're pointing out something that is crucial to this industry, but also you're alerting other members and they're like, hey, hold on, look at this guy. Look at Dimitri saying. And that's deterring from people giving money to an organization. So you automatically become the enemy within that organization. Not just the VTA, this has happened with SPA, this is happening across the board in all the organizations up to so far. And then when you don't like what you see, you just step up and you do your own. And I think that's what Amanda and the group and Char and the rest of them are trying to do here. I don't fault you for doing it at all, Amanda. I told you privately. I said, I think this is a good thing. Whatever you're going to get some backlash, but whatever it is, just ignore the chatter and just move forward. But my biggest concern for you would be the financial. You know, I think that is a huge, huge obstacle. When I look at my state, a state that's the first independent state organization here. For 6 years, we have defended vapor in Tennessee, perfection. And I can't budget for next year, where all these years I've always had the money for next year. I'm seeing the industry crumble on a state level. I can imagine how difficult it's going to be for you to raise, because you cannot do this without any money. You need to have money, honey. That's just how it is.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, Shar and I have spent months now preparing AVM, crafting it, finding the testing solution, finding the lobbying team, finding the scientific team, you know, structuring the board, structuring the membership tiers, you know, doing the feasibility study on the lab. And, you know, we have the path forward. We have a solution for people right now. And it's going to be up to each company individually to decide, you know, do we want to avail ourselves of this solution, or are we content to get wiped out in the review period, right? Because we're trying to make this to where money isn't the problem, right? The entry level membership into AVM is $1,500. If you can afford $1,500 to be a member, you have access to the testing, because we have to do the lobbying to support the testing. It's useless. And so that's why if you want our testing, you have to be a member who paid dues to participate in the lobbying. But you know, so we have the solution. We have this path here for people. People are going to fund it or they're not. You know, people are going to join and put their resource towards it, or they're not. And I'm not going to force anybody to do that. I'm not going to try to, you know, yell at anybody or anything to try to, like, you know, say, oh, you have to give to this or you're a bad person.
Oh, you're not going to do Facebook Lives and call out people that haven't given?
It's just,
you should do that. It works. Like, you should do that. It works very well.
We're offering companies, like, here is a path, here is a solution to get you through this review period and to provide you with some testing for your PMTA. And if you want your company to be around next year, you have to do something, you know, and we have this solution here ready for you.
Great.
So I think it's kind of an easy decision for people, because we're not, you know, trying to sell people on some vague concept. We're like, this is what it is. It's aerosolized HPHC and stability testing. It's representation. It's regulatory counsel. That's what it is. So far, you know, given the few number of acceptance and filing letters that people have actually received, we've had a tremendous amount of membership come in. It's fascinating and encouraging to me, the amount of people that have been willing to take this leap of faith with us.
Yes.
I have a couple questions here. So Amanda, you said you need $2.5 million, and that's for that. You said that's going to go to lobbying and to testing, correct?
Yes.
So when you say testing, are you referring to like a default set of testing that all of the companies who join you can use and utilize? Is that how it works?
No. So we went through a bunch of rounds of ideas. We talked to so many different scientists, so many different people that worked at labs, so many people that have regulatory experience. And we were trying to find an answer to what is a testing solution that is highly credible, that follows really rigorous protocols, that can really be stand-up testing in the eyes of the FDA, but acknowledging the fact that we don't have gajillions of dollars to spend on it, right? And so there was an evolution of ideas on the testing. So there was like this initial idea of, we're going to test each, because we've got, if you take the main flavor components from the PMTA sharing group, There are about 600 different flavorings that are common across all the applications filed. And then there are some kind of oddball ones from the smaller flavor houses, but just the core ones, there are about 600 different components across all of these companies. And we thought, well, we can just test each individual flavoring component, and then we can just do all kinds of bridging documentation to make it apply to that product, right? And we could have done that, right? We could have just done a bunch of individual testing on all the flavors everybody uses, but the problem with that method is it's not in the finished product. It
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
show the chemicals that are created when those things are combined, blah, blah, blah. And it's just everybody literally with the exact same testing, and which is going to make for a very weak PMTA. And, we went through other versions where we talked about flavor aggregates, flavor components that put off similar compounds, like combining those down into aggregates and then running testing on those and then bridging to other things. And, just, you get the idea. We even thought, what if a company took every flavoring component and every single liquid that they make and combine them all into like this master flavoring mush and then run testing on that one sample and show like the worst possible case scenario. If you combine everything this manufacturer uses, here's everything it puts off. That is not valid if you know anything about chemistry. That idea got poo-pooed by the scientists pretty quickly. And so what we ended up with is, we consulted with scientists that are experienced in pharma with FDA pharma testing. And they came back to us with a very brilliant proposal about tapestry pooling. And God, I know somebody's going to want me to explain this. And we're going to do a webinar where we're going to have the scientists come on and explain it, because I struggled for a C in chemistry. But basically, it does. So all of the testing that we're going to do, it's going to be all on the finished products, right? They're going to be in the flavor that follows that recipe. They're going to be in the base, it's going to be very product specific testing. But when you run, it has to do with math and matrices and samples that you run together and then run statistical analysis on. But basically, we've got that suite of 33 HPHCs we have to test for. This tapestry pooling method is a scientifically based mathematical method where you don't test all 33 of those HPHCs every single time. Like every time you do it, you leave one out, right? And then you do all of this math and these matrices at the end, and you end up with very scientifically valid results on your HPHCs. And the precedent where they're really using this kind of statistical analysis right now is in COVID applications. It's become very heavily utilized. Confident about it because it's been validated in other arenas and it's been accepted by FDA in other applications. And when we were approaching this from talking to people that work with industry and work within industry, we were getting flavor-based solutions, right? But when we went and talked to an actual scientist whose background is in pharma, we got a very scientific solution to this problem that I think is interesting. So we feel that the tapestry pooling, and then also by having our own sort of lab that doesn't have this crazy markup that these other labs have, there's in the lab setup, there's one particular machine that slows everything down. And how you solve that problem is you just get the top tier fastest machine because it's like 6 times faster than the lower model. And then you buy all of the robotic attachments to it that do like the loading and the samples and all of that automatically. So you don't have a human there having to do all of this stuff on the machines. They're fully automatic. And then you just buy more of those machines. It's like instead of having one, you have 3. You can go 3 times as fast. And you have to have extra manpower and all of that. But because you get the most automated, most sophisticated machines that you can, and you have multiple of those, and we're using this pooling method where we're leaving one set of tests out every time and then doing the math to show what it would have been. It ends up being what the scientists find to be a very elegant solution to a very complicated problem. And so, we'll have a webinar where the scientists will actually properly explain this to people, because I've had it explained to me and I still can't explain it fully. But I've seen enough of it to really feel confident that it is a very valid solution to our problem and that it will work.
The valid solution is, before I hang myself with all this chemistry, the valid solution is what I said 4 years ago. And Phil, you remember this. The FDA does not know how to regulate this product. Who knows how to regulate this product? The industry itself. All we had to do, before we even submitted the PMTAs, we should have gone to the FDA and say, hey, look, we represent the industry. This is what 𝗍𝗵𝗶 should have done. But we represent the industry. We know our product, and this is how we test across the board. Everybody does the same. We could have dropped those costs down before we even submitted PMTAs if simply we had gone to the FDA and said, look, across the board, all the manufacturers, but all the manufacturers had to do that. You can't have 𝗍𝗵𝗶 that has 20 members saying they represent e-liquid manufacturers across the nation when there's 5,000 people making liquid that are not members of 𝗍𝗵𝗶.
Right.
I think the protocols and anything that we submit to the FDA, if it comes from the stakeholders and says, hey, look, this is valid work and it represents 1.7 million PMTAs, then we have a case with the FDA. Okay? So that point I take from you. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I mean all of that, what we're doing, we're putting in a formalized, meeting request and proposal to FDA to discuss this plan with them because it has been recognized by FDA in these other COVID and pharma related applications. Sure. We need FDA to translate that over into e-liquid.
Sure. However, here comes the Fox News, Dimitri. However, let's not forget that there's some big companies that have submitted PMTAs that are very extensively scientific. Mm-hmm. That poses a problem, especially if the FDA approves one of these applications within the next 12 months. I mean, if they approve a 𝗲𝗎 or a 𝗲𝗏 or a 𝗍𝗔 or one of these products that has done extensive scientific work and puts it on the market, that poses a huge problem for our industry. And I'm not going to get into details, but I will tell you that it's going to be huge opposition for us to get. I mean, we're basically asking the FDA to, approve this what I like to consider A+ PMTA, right? Put it on the market, and then here we come with these D- PMTAs, or F in some cases, but D- PMTAs, and we're saying we need to be on the same playing field as these. These guys are not going to be very happy about that. These big guys that have huge influence with regulatory authority over the last, 100 years that they've been dealing with them. So I think that poses another issue for us as well, too. I mean, as long as the FDA does not approve anything in the next 12 months, I think that we have a very strong chance for this to work. I think if something gets approved within the next 12 months, I think it's going to become even more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And, I mean, not to pivot back to this, but that's why I want to see all of the manufacturers get organized under one umbrella, because then, we have an army to fight that, because, we don't just have to be worried about FDA right now. We have to be worried about big tobacco. We have to be worried about medium tobacco. We have to be worried about small tobacco.
And we have to be worried about some of our vapor industry buddies too. Don't worry.
American Academy of Pediatricians. I mean, our enemies are numerous. One day I was talking to my husband. He was laying there in the bathtub because he does that a lot. And we have like these 3 mirrors in our bathrooms. We have like 2 vanities and a thing in between.
Now we're getting to the DP show for sure.
Well, this story isn't going where you're thinking.
Oh, damn.
It is the DP show after all.
Go ahead.
I was trying to break it down to Jordan, like the scope of the problem that we have to fight. And I went and got a dry erase marker, and I got on my like 3 bathroom mirrors that take up my entire bathroom. And I started sketching it out like police detective style. Over here, we have this group of people who are going to be out to get us. And over here, we have this group of people who are going to be out to get us. And, here's all the stuff we have to accomplish while we're being attacked from all these sides. I understand the scope of our problem. Trust me. I understand that
I know you do. I just want to make sure the audience does as well, too. That's what I'm saying.
There are very few people who want us to succeed at this.
Yes.
Very few people. And there are a lot of people that don't want us to succeed. And
Unbelievable.
That's why we are assembling an army. Come join our troops.
Yes.
Let's go fight together.
Yes. I think that is the problem is that there has never been a movement that has joined this industry together. Never. It's just that, and you know, as hopeful as I am for your new organization, and I hope especially small e-liquid manufacturers join, because this gives them the opportunity to be part of something bigger. The reality again of it is that there's always special interest, not just from big tobacco, but from independent vapor companies as well too, that just think that, you know, I'm not going to say any names, starts with an A, but you know, there's companies out there that want to monopolize this industry, and they believe that they have the solution, and their testing and their work and what they've submitted to the FDA. And trust me, just as we are lobbying the FDA to give us a pathway, they're lobbying the FDA to say, hey, look, I spent millions of dollars here to do all this work for my products. You know, you're not going to give these guys a pass. And I think that that's a reality that people should be aware of it as where. All right, I got to bring this up, Amanda.
Hey, before you do, Dan, I'm sure that there's a lot of questions from Bill Tarling too, but I have two questions for Amanda. They're quick. Number one, Amanda, have you done a PMTA for watermelon peach, the number one best-selling flavor in the unsalted line? I was just curious, because if you haven't, you should. Okay, that's the first question. The second question is, have any of the e-liquid players that are on VTA come over to you and expressed interest in you?
Yeah, we've had a few. I don't want to like get into
no.
Like,
and you shouldn't. But I am curious.
It's not even a matter of drama. I think what Phil privately has told me for the last 2-3 years is, because Phil is not politically involved like I am. Okay, in this relationship here, I'm the advocacy guy. You know, Phil is the technical guy. It's always been like that. But privately, he comes to me and he asks me that question, and I don't have an answer for him. He's like, "What win have we got? what have we won?" And I struggle to answer to him. And I think he's bitter as a consumer more than anything, because he is a vapor and he does care about this industry, and we care about smokers, and we care about what the future is going to be. And I think personally he's bitter as a consumer, not even a DP show or 𝗵𝗵𝗀 personality or anything. This is private conversations he's had with me. And I agree with him. Like, I'm telling him that, you know, I feel you. I don't know how to answer that, but I don't have an answer for you. And I hope that we do have an answer with this group. All right, so I got this synthetic nicotine. Just briefly, we have to touch on it. I've seen a lot of companies make the switch. I've seen a lot of companies announcing that, hey, you know, synthetic nicotine, we're shifting all of our products there. And I actually got an email the other day. By the way, you will not believe you know, me and Phil are writing a book. You will not. I have accumulated nearly 2 gigabytes of screenshots, because I screenshot all that to keep it for the book at some point. I received an email that literally says, our product does not need a PMTA. This is how we're going to fuck the U and the C has stars. So it's F***K. This is how we're going to fuck the FDA. Okay? And they're advertising e-liquid. They're e-liquid. So my question to you, synthetic nicotine, loophole, yes or no? Very simple.
Well, I mean, back to the point you made earlier about terrible enforcement. I mean, keep that in mind. I mean, God knows if FDA will actually enforce. But hypothetically, if there was enforcement on synthetic nicotine, my take on that hasn't really changed, that a company's going to have to go into court and defend that position.
Yes.
Right. And you have to have, I mean, fighting a lawsuit with the FDA is expensive.
Yes.
Ask anybody who's done it. Like, you better be prepared.
Yes.
And that's not me wishing ill on anybody that's going that route. Not at all. But just to be realistic about it, if you're going that route, you either have to recognize that might get shut down and it's a limited time solution, or B, that you're going to have to defend that in court at some point if you want to have that be a long-term solution.
I completely agree. And I will answer the question as I always do, quoting the infamous governor of New York. Synthetic nicotine tobacco product? Technically, no. But so what? Okay? So to put that into context, what I'm trying to tell you is that, yes, you have to prove that your product is not captured under the FDA, under the Tobacco Control Act, because your product is not derived from the tobacco plant. And that's going to be a very, very costly. And there might be a company that takes it up. I mean, you know, there might be a company that does go to court, but the FDA, with a ruling, right, with a deeming rule, they can capture synthetic nicotine immediately, or they can capture it under the Tobacco Control Act as well too, if it's sold in a place that also sells regular nicotine as well too, because then they can say that we can reasonably expect that the intention of this product is to be used with a nicotine product as well too. The same thing goes for hardware. I think any hardware manufacturer that has balls and millions can challenge the FDA right now. Any new hardware that comes in from China should not be stopped. And if it's stopped, it should go to court because it does not contain nicotine. So the same thing goes for them. I think synthetic falls under that same loop. If a hardware is put into a vape shop that sells tobacco-derived nicotine, then it's reasonably expected that that product will be used with the nicotine product, so it becomes a component. And that's how it's written in the Tobacco Control Act. Okay?
Yeah. No, Demi, you're absolutely right. And I mean, it's ridiculous logic, but unfortunately that's what's in the FDA guidelines,
yes.
And that's what's in the Tobacco Control Act, and that's
yes.
what's in the deeming regulations. So, I don't think that that's right. And I think that somebody should fight that.
I agree.
I think somebody's going to have to if they want to go that route. And I think the case for hardware, I would love to see somebody take that up in court.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's just that it's as long as there's no enforcement from the FDA, we're not going to see those moves. Because, as long as people can continue to sell and make money, nobody really gives a shit. I mean, that's just basically the moment that a shipment is seized, like back in 2009 when it did with Enjoy's products and with smoking with 21st Century, I think it was. When those products were seized at the port, then you might see some people that are going to step up. But as it stands right now, if the FDA does nothing, nobody's going to do anything. It's just that doesn't affect them. All right, I'm going to go back just to wrap it up because we've kept you very, very long. So we're going almost 2 hours. The AVM, the American Vapor Manufacturers or Association, launched yesterday. Amanda, Char, group of ladies ready to fight. The two main goals, and I want to get this because it's very, very important. It's something that lobbying on a federal level representing small e-liquid manufacturers, small and medium, and some large maybe. Okay, small, medium, and some large e-liquid manufacturers. Very, very important because it's specific lobbying. It's not just the vape industry lobbying where you're trying to represent a vape shop, a distributor, a manufacturer, all these layers under one umbrella. You have a specific goal, and that is to address the issue on a lobbying federal level of e-liquid manufacturers trying to get through the process, correct?
Yes.
And also advocating with the FDA on coming up with fair and reasonable protocols and regulations to address the stringent scientific requirements that are in the deeming rule requirements as it stands right now.
Correct.
These are the two main things.
Yeah. That and, providing people with testing, that's really what we're trying to do.
And nobody's done that so far, by the way. I just want to put that out there, Phil. Nobody has done that so far. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to me, I'm shocked that nobody stepped up and took the lead on this because it was such a glaring problem that
we thought 𝗵𝗄 was
needed to be solved. It's not a unique idea that I had that we need to go do something about this.
I thought 𝗵𝗄 was going to do it. Again, I don't want to be the bad guy, but I was a member of 𝗵𝗄 for the first 2-3 years until I started installing all the bullshit. And then, the company that I worked for at the time, we pulled out. I mean, I thought that was the goal. And then when lobbying came into play, I thought that was a good thing. And it's zero results. And again, the blame or why it didn't work or whatever, again, that's irrelevant. But I thought that's what it's going to be. And it just never worked out. It just did not work out the way that we anticipated, at least. We don't have this. We have this, we have this VTA that's trying to capture, trying to get money from the small mom and pop shops, the manufacturer, the distributor, the Chinese. What happened to the Chinese? All these memberships last year, the VTA, nothing. All that money, what happened? And now we're trying to capture the consumer under our trade association and the federal. I mean, what the fuck is going on? This is why we're losing. It's across the board and it's not specific. You guys have a specific role and that's why you're going to succeed. Win or lose, you're going to succeed because at least you figured out that this is the issue that I have to deal with, and this is what I'm going to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, I like AVM because it is being led by independent manufacturers. I mean, this is, there's a very practical part to it as well as being business owners and stuff. But you can't deny there's a labor of love involved. We can't just watch this die,
Yeah.
and we're not going to, and um I hope the industry will rally behind it. I hope the industry will participate in it. And just from what we've seen in the first 2 days, it's happening. And I think when people start to see their acceptance letters come through, it's really going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I
You
mean,
know,
I tell you what, I wish you nothing but the best. I
thank you.
admire you for taking on a task like that, especially in this toxic, environment that we've created in the
And
last few years.
I love that it's small to medium sized companies, and if I could do anything to help you out, with Taste Your Juice. As a matter of fact, I am going to offer you a couple banners on the site. I'll include you in the advocacy area as well. So I'll get with you this
Sweet.
week to get some logos and some links from you.
That's so sweet of you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. That's really
Such a
kind of
nice
you.
guy.
I appreciate it.
Such a nice guy.
Appreciate that.
I have a serious question. Why do you have 3 mirrors in your bathroom? That's been bugging me for the last 10 minutes.
Because, we have like the double sinks, and there's
I
like a
know.
little makeup area in between. So it's
It's
just
a
like
joke.
wall-to-wall
I know.
mirrors. It's kind of weird, but
I
it's
know.
good for when you're trying to do like a police investigator tracking all the connections. You can just go to town on the mirrors.
I hear you. Michael Clark, I just want to thank Phil and Dimmy. I'm down to a pack every 2-3 days now because of the tank you sent me. Only smoke while my battery is charging. Need to get another setup. One is charging. Yeah. Michael, hey, listen, buddy. Put them cigarettes down for a few days. Go buy you a backup. That way you can have one while the other one is charging and go to town.
What did
buddy.
Michael say? What's Michael's bullshit excuse? He smokes while his shit's
He
charging.
said it's
Is that what he
charging.
just
Yeah.
said?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Michael, get a hold of me. I'll send you something that you can use while your other thing's charging.
Look at that. Phil is
Send
such a
me a
giving
Facebook
mood today.
message,
Hey,
Michael.
Phil,
I'll
give me
hook you up.
Phil, give me $1 million.
And don't feel bad. I always have to have multiple devices because none of mine are ever charged.
Michael,
It's okay.
just quit smoking, buddy. Smoking is so 80s. I was talking about this the other day, by the way, Amanda. I was in Greece, and I helped a couple people quit smoking there with a special that we're doing. And I told this one person, I said, smoking to me is like dinosaurs, right? It's like I'm watching an 80s porn movie. It seems so like it's 2020. We have technology today that is just amazing. I mean, look, Phil's Roomba is in the pool. I mean, we have amazing technology right now, right? How can you possibly pick up something and light it on fire? It's just, again, I'm not bashing smokers by any means. I'm just surprised that. So I was telling this person, I was like, smoking is just in the past. This is, what we use now to deliver nicotine in it. And this young lady, she takes a puff off. I give her she got this light tube, and I put the psych inside 9 milligram. She takes a puff out, and it just, see her eyes light up, and it was the right setup, it was the right nicotine level, all this 45-minute thing that I gave to her. And just today, she sends me a message on Instagram. She's like, hey, I haven't touched a cigarette, and I smell better, and I feel better, and I go to the gym, and I'm more energized. And I'm like, these people should be every day out there spreading the word, not, stop smoking, Michael. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
We covered it all. Amanda, anything else that you want to add?
No, just go visit the avm.org and sign up. And, we had a lot of people inquire about, on like the silver and the gold level, if they could do like, monthly or quarterly installments or whatever. And so if you are out there and you would like to join AVM, but you're having a hard time with the membership dues up front and you need a payment plan, get in touch with me or 𝗫, because we have options. So if you want to join AVM, but the money is a barrier, get in touch with us and we can talk about like the monthly membership options instead, because we don't want anybody to be left out that wants to be a part of.
It's tough right now, man. It's just tough. All these businesses, and God almighty, I can't believe I'm going to go on a rant again. You know what's really pissing me off, Amanda? You know what's really bugging me this week? Aside
that?
aside from all my personal issues that I'm having, what's really bugging me is the other day I saw a post on Facebook of people bitching about the marketing and imagery on Delta 8 THC carts, right? They're saying, oh, the guys that were making liquids, they're bitching about the imagery, and nobody's bitching the fact that we're selling Delta 8 in vape shops. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we fuck a year we're getting butt fucked from every company saying volley is being caused by vaping. And here we go, we bring Delta 8 carts into the vape shops now. And instead of bitching about that, we're bitching about the imagery that's on there. You're fucking selling THC.
Yeah.
I am, maybe it's just me. Okay, you got to keep the doors open. I get it. You got to keep the doors open. This is the excuse I keep getting all the time. I got to keep the doors open. Why stop there? Just sell crack. Just sell, I mean, whatever. Just sell it all. Sell dildos. Just keep the doors. If you want to do that, we've lost that vape shop connection, and I think that's hurting us on top of everything else that's there. Like, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
It's not just you. It's
No,
not.
I get it. I mean, J-Vapes, we run really old school vape shops. Like anybody that's ever been in our stores, I mean, it's old school. Like we sell very little that's not open systems e-liquid. I think we have like a couple of CBD things that we don't even sell very much of, but like 99.9% of what's in our store is just, open systems vape. But it's sad when you like see the state of where the industry's moving. I mean, and trying to recruit members to the state groups and stuff. Like I visit a lot of shops and stores, and I walk in the stores and it's like they've got 60% of their customers converted to disposables. Like, how does that help the long-term viability of your business? Like,
that's horrible.
When you start doing things like carrying all this other stuff, how does that make a 65-year-old smoker feel when they walk into your vape shop? And they see all of this stuff that maybe that's not what they signed up for. Like they don't want to be coming into a place that has, all of this stuff for drugs and, all this stuff for tobacco and whatnot.
And what's interesting is we just went full circle. What did we start talking about with this show? We talked about imagery, and we talked about what the vaping industry looked like, and look at what it looks like now. Right? Yeah. We just went full circle. When you walk into a vape shop, right, and you see all of this stuff, that's not vape shop. It's not what we signed up for.
Yeah.
Right. It does nothing for us. It does nothing for us in the public perception of what we do.
Right. Because, my stores, especially my Colorado Springs store, like I use it as a venue to bring politicians in and educate them about vaping. And so, I run the kind of stores that I'm comfortable having elected officials walk into and say, this is what vaping is. A lot of people do that, by the way, not discounting all of the good vape shops out there. But there just is more of a transition away from, our purpose. And I understand that everybody has to make business decisions and yada, yada, yada. But it's just, it makes me sad when I walk into stores and I see an overwhelming amount of that kind of stuff. It makes me sad for what the industry used to be.
Yeah, it makes us very, very sad as well too. Yesterday in the local motorcycle group, again, I'm going on the local motorcycle group, this guy posted, he's like, oh, who wants to go for a ride? So I didn't have nothing to do. I was like, okay, I'll go for a ride. So we meet up at Champy's. He has a Honda 1000 CBR or whatever, and we take off and we go up through Ocoee, which is a little mountain over here, and then we pull over to the side. And I take out my vape, and I'm vaping, and he's like, oh, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. I was like, oh, man, again, I keep bringing up this 80s thing, but that's what I told him as well. I was like, nobody smokes anymore, dude. He's like, oh, yeah, man, I was doing the, the blows and the puffs, but, it got expensive to me. And I'm like, this is what they think vaping is today. It's like, I'm like, look, I was using the Scepter from Inikin. I was like, here, look, you can refill it, and it's inexpensive. He's like, oh, it doesn't hit like... It's like this fiending of these 50 milligram pods is just unbelievable. And I'm like, what happened to the golden 5 years where we converted, millions of people using 18 milligram free-base nicotine? What happened to that? And they're like, oh, Dimitri, you're just old school, or you make a mouth-to-lung tank. That's why you're saying it. I mean, these are the responses I'm getting, and I'm like, aren't you seeing this industry die? Like vape shops that they used to welcome, you know, these adults inside, and all age groups are just like turning into these, you know, kratom delta 8 pre-rolled combustible products in a place called vape shop. It's like mind-blowing. It's like going to Best Buy and buying hamburgers. You know, I don't get it. Then again, like I said, maybe it's just me. All right, we kept you long enough. Amanda, I wish you nothing but luck, you and Char and everybody else in the group with the AVM. Anything that we can do, you know, we're always here for you. Even if it's just an ear to bitch when everybody starts getting too overwhelming for you. And we're just gonna monitor the progress and see how it goes. And you know, well, I'll keep you in check. You know that. Don't think I won't.
That's what I love about you. If you always tell me exactly what you think, and that's why I really appreciate.
Ain't that the truth?
Because you don't mince words.
Yeah, it's like Michael Jackson. You either love me or hate me. There's no in between. But I think that I think that honesty is very, very important, whether it's good or bad. Because some of the stuff that I say, it might be bad. You know, I represent some big companies as well, too. I'm going to tell you right now, some of these companies don't want competition. That's just the way it is. And I don't blame them. I mean, they're just doing whatever is best for their own company. Now, do I like it as Dimitri? No, I don't like it. But that's just the reality of it. This is how it's always been in the last 25 years in America. Right? So don't take it. I wouldn't take it personally.
You bring up a very good point that it made me think of something that I don't know that some of these bigger companies that have never gotten too involved in retail understand. And that's like, so you have a company like mine, or, you know, any number of retailers that have their own liquid lines. Those retailers make their margins on their liquid line, and that is what enables them to sell your big nationwide line.
Yeah.
Is because they've got, you know, they've got their house line that does all of their margins, and now they're able to carry all of these national brands. And I would encourage the bigger manufacturers to think about how the system functions as a whole. Right? If you want all the little tiny manufacturers to go away, like if you take all of my liquid off the market, I no longer have the kind of profit margins to keep my stores open to sell your big national brand.
Right.
Right. And I don't think that some of those larger companies have properly thought through their monopoly plans. You don't fit on the convenience store shelf any better than the rest of us do.
Right.
And I really need you to understand you need to keep your vape shop manufacturers alive, because that's how they're supporting their ability to sell your products.
It's also a matter of how the product works. Yeah, it's also how the product works. Variety is key for vaping to be around. You can't go into one vape shop that has 3 brands and be successful. You can't keep your doors open like that. You need to have variety for different age groups, for different taste buds, for different, you know, picky people like Phil. You know, you need to have a variety of products in there. So even if one company passes a PMTA, not all the vape shops in America can sell just that one product and stay in business.
No.
So competition is good.
Vape shops are in every town.
Yes.
If they all had only the exact same products, like all the vape shops
Correct.
would close except for a handful. And then where's your market for your big national brand? You don't have it.
Correct. Also, the type of industry that we're in, you know, people like variety, and they get excited about new trends, and they're getting excited about new products. They get excited about somebody, you know, bringing something new inside their stores. That's what keep the customer traffic back inside. If you're not selling, you know, 50 milligram and you only see them once a month. But, you know, nicotine caps in Europe my businesses in Greece have survived because of the nicotine cap. There's no doubt about it, Amanda. We can compete with the big guys. And unfortunately, when you have companies here that are dropping 50, 60, 70, I saw 70 milligram pods the other day, when they're dropping these products into the market, then it becomes, it's a huge issue for margins. It becomes a huge issue for vape shops, and it becomes a huge issue with the regulators as well, too, because there's a big uptake and initiation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we have to stop being the architects of our own demise, you know?
Yes, maybe on the next show. I was watching. Can we keep going on? But I was watching a Vape Team episode from 2014. Phil, the other day. I don't know why it just came up on my feed, and we were talking about bad labeling in 2014. We were talking about bad labeling. We're telling consumers don't support these products that are out there and harming our industry. Back in 2014, and look where we are today. It's just getting worse and worse. It's just like, ugh. All right, Amanda, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. The AVM. .org, the avm.org, if you want information on how to join the group. Phil, some final words from you, sir.
I have no final words except I wish Amanda the best of luck with this effort. I love that it's targeting small and medium-sized e-liquid companies, and it sounds like a hole that we needed to fill. So I hope this works out. I really do. I want to see some small businesses get through and get a PMTA. I think it's so important.
And stop filing PMTA for 100,000 SKUs too, please. Stop doing that. Whoever's doing that, stop filing 100,000 PMTAs. Pick your best flavors. Pick 12, 16, 18, 20, whatever it is. Stop filing 100,000 PMTAs. I didn't get into that too much. Just a little plug for me and Phil. My Vapor Store has just restocked the Anakin Aries 2 limited edition, the Onyx and the Flint, and they're now in stock at myvaporstore.com. So if you're interested in getting this nice little beauty that I have here, look at that. How sexy that is, Phil. You know, I am the Onyx in the relationship, and you are the Flint.
You're the Onyx?
I'm the Onyx.
Well, I'm using the Onyx though.
Yeah.
And
well,
I'm murdered out AF, by the way.
That's what I was gonna say. I have my murdered out AF as well too. All black. Like my heart. Yeah, black.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So, myvaporstore.com if you're interested in that. Thanks once again, Amanda. We will be back next Tuesday. There is a possibility we're going to do the Smoker Show next Tuesday if we get everything set up. If not, we'll be back with another DP
is it just
show.
Me or is Amanda not only much more attractive than you, but also a very impressive person? Wouldn't you say?
Very smart.
Right?
Very smart. Very smart. That's enough flirting.
She should be doing the show with you, not me. How do I know?
It's enough flirting, Phil. All right. If we don't do the Smoker Show next Tuesday night, we're going to do another DP show Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe to the channel here. We appreciate you. See you again next week.